to the Pick Connection. I'm John Evans, your host, and we have an exciting lineup today. First up, we have a return guest, back by popular demand, Alec Italiano. He's going to be talking about workforce development in the region. And then coming up after Alec is Judy Siebert. She's going to be talking about some nutritional tips. And you better stay around because I know some of you out there really do need that, including me. So stay with us. Coming up next is Alec Italiano talking about workforce development. With me now and back by popular demand, right?
Hey, I'm here for a reason, right?
Alec Italiano, he's the manager of communications for the Westmoreland County Industrial Development Corporation. And we did have a good time the last time Alec was on the show. And,
we did.
There's new things developing, Alec, and that's what we want you to get back with us and talk about some new updates that is occurring.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on the show. It's always fun coming down here and talking to you guys and figuring out everything that's going on down here. But yeah, the reason I'm here is the Westmoreland County Forum for Workforce Development. Last time I was here, we showed the video that I had put together with the help of Harry and Doug, and thanks again for all the help that PIC has given us for this.
Yeah, we've worked together very well.
Yeah, I think so, and it came together really nicely. So I just wanted to come down here and give an update. It was funny this morning, we were just at another meeting talking about some updates, and they had a lot of the school counselors there and the superintendents going over some of the things that I'm here talking about today. But I did want to just share with you the mission statement here of the forum, and that's really just to connect businesses and education through the coordinated opportunities, which will in turn improve workforce quality and economic development for the whole region. And that was definitely something that I hit on last time. This wasn't just Westmoreland County thing, Fayette County thing, or a Pittsburgh thing. This is a regional thing that we're trying to
Yeah, and it's everybody's talked about that for a good number of years, getting the businesses together with the education, and it looks like things are finally happening.
Yeah, that's really the key, John, is trying to get the private side and the public side kind of on the same page, you know, and that's where that public-private partnership keyword really is, really true to its name, in that regard. And I think, we've really done a good job with that so far. So, like I said, the forum isn't just school district members and superintendents. There's representatives from the Industrial Development Corporation, who I work for, the Economic Growth Connection, the EGC, which is about a financing arm for Westmoreland County, trying to get development to come through. And a couple of the goals here of the forum is really to change the regional culture to support this kind of career education and work standards, and I think that's something that PIC has always had in its mission as well.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm just looking at the number of the attendees at this forum, Alec, and boy, oh boy, I tell you what, there's some big hitters here. Oh
yeah, definitely. We talked about Bill Thompson before. He's executive director of WIB, Westmoreland Investment Board. So that's always good. It's always good to have his support, and a lot of the grant monies flows through his office.
Absolutely,
and he supports the forum as well. So that's good. We always are trying to create sustainable infrastructure here that aligns those educational resources to the economic and community, developments. They kind of need to go hand in hand with each other. And then, of course, one of the broader goals of the forum is to really develop a replicable county model, for the Pennsylvania career education and work standards. So that's something else we're trying to do, is say, we're on top of the workforce problem, and this might be something to look at for the future and across the state, across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, it really is a regional thing, not just staying local. It's got to expand regionally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's really the nail on the head right there, is because workforce isn't a local problem. It's the more communities you can kind of connect together and work with and create those partnerships with. That's how you're going to grow your workforce, really, and that's how you're going to attract businesses to the community. Because that's a lot of what we do at the IDC is we reach out to the business community. We take surveys annually. Kim Donnelly, somebody I work with, a colleague of mine at the IDC, she's in the business calling program. And that was one of the biggest things that we found last year is when we were interviewing businesses. Workforce is the #1 issue right now for businesses currently in Westmoreland County and the Fayette County, and businesses looking to relocate here as well.
Yeah.
So.
And with the improvement of the highways, the expressways coming in, and you and I were talking before we got on here, the expressway now it's going to be put in through like Pittsburgh up to Monroeville, or that other part of it.
Yeah, it's going to come all the way down from the airport.
Yeah.
Down, going to connect into where 43 terminates currently in Jefferson Hills, and then the last leg is going to shoot up over the river and back up into Monroeville. So,
and that's all important because it's regionally
important.
growth. I mean, companies, they can locate maybe in Westmoreland County or maybe Fayette or Washington or something like that, but they have those expressways, those roads, that transportation where people can still get there in a hurry.
And that's really key, especially for a lot of the industrial manufacturers here, is because they're trying to get goods and services in and out of the county. And that's, as an economic development agency, that's what we're here for. Is we're here to try to make those solutions for them to happen. So they look at areas like this first and say, hey, it looks like, these guys are on our side. They're on the same page with us. They want to work with us, and it's those relationships that I think have been, a lot of the reasons for we've had success down here so far. So.
And another thing, it's a little off the topic a little bit.
Yeah.
Is sort of, but you and I were talking about the train.
Yeah.
The trains are still important.
Very important. Yeah.
But that's another topic we can.
That's another topic.
Yeah.
I'll delve into a little bit because we work with the SWP, Southwest Pennsylvania Railroad. And that's something that the IDC, we've always worked with them since the beginning. And right up 119 here, we have the logistics park. And that's a nice regional asset that I don't think a lot of people know about because what it does is it gives everybody in Westmoreland County, Fayette County, Allegheny County, what have you, an opportunity to have rail service, and depending on what your business is, if you're bringing raw materials in, especially something that's heavier, typically something over 200, 300 miles, it's more cost effective to do it via rail.
And I think, maybe some people, forget about the rail system, but it's there. We have a good system around here, and not only for moving merchandise, but people as well, with sightseeing and things like that.
Yeah, I was just telling you about my trip down to DC and got it here in Connellsville, and it was a very nice trip. But yeah, what's nice about our rail infrastructure is we have access to 3 Class 1 railroads, which not a lot of people
I didn't know that.
realize. Wow. We have Norfolk Southern, which is the Pennsylvania main line, goes all the way from the port in Philadelphia, which is very key because that's where a lot of the goods will get shipped out of. And then also the CSX, which goes south to north, and then the Baltimore or in Ohio, I believe it is, or the Wheeling and Lake Erie. I believe it's the Wheeling and Lake Erie, and that's nice because that hooks into the Canadian rail network. So really, from Westmoreland County, you can go anywhere you need to go, from New Orleans to Philadelphia to British Columbia. You can put it on rail here and then take it where you need to go. So a little off topic about workforce development, but it all relates.
It does, yeah. Regionally, yes, it all relates, yes. You were talking too earlier, Alec, about micro
credentials.
Yes, micro credentials. Maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, sure. So one of the bigger aspects that the workforce forum is really, we've worked very closely with Westmoreland County Community College, 3Cs. And all the educational leaders on it. We have representation from Seton Hill, Penn State, St. Vincent, obviously 3Cs, is they put together this college and career pathways model. And really what the idea behind this is we have 5 different clusters, is what we're kind of calling them, for high school students to kind of look at and say, oh, I'm not so sure what I want to go into. You're young, you're 17, you're 18 years old, and this kind of gives you a basis of where you want to go. So the nice thing about the micro-credential is if it's something that's recognized at the high school level, we can take it to the higher educational level, and it gives you sort of like an edge when you get into higher education, whether that be at 3Cs or whether that be at Penn State, Pitt, what have you. It's something that college counselors can look at and say, oh, you have this micro-credential in, manufacturing and process technology, for example. We want to get you in some engineering classes and make sure that's something that you want to do. And the whole idea of this is so kids, students have an opportunity to know what they don't want to do. So they're not wasting that time and money in college figuring out there and maybe switching majors 4 or 5 times and tacking on an extra year or 2 to their education, So this is a really nice system because the idea behind it is it doesn't matter what school district you're in. You could be in Jeanette, you could be in Ligonier Valley, you could be in Hempfield, and still have all the same opportunities to get into any career that you're interested in, So that's really one of the cross-district curriculum is sort of a key word that we've been hitting on through this whole thing, and I think so far so good.
And these clusters, you've done research on this. These are the clusters that are the jobs of the future now, and
yeah, especially for this region. So I'll read off a couple of them here. Advanced manufacturing and technical services, energy, agriculture, and natural resources. Then you have your business end of it, business services, financial. They lump together hospitality and public administration to that. Then you have your allied health and human services, which is obviously huge for the Pittsburgh region. And then your information and communication technology, which goes into what we're doing here, AV, audio, video, film technology, IT, things of that nature. So, that's also these were put together with our region's needs in mind.
Yes.
And working for the IDC, I know firsthand advanced manufacturing is huge for this region right now, and getting people trained in the STEM career fields, the science and the technology and the education and all that is really important. To cultivate the workforce.
Well, certainly you're down in Fayette. These are all the key cluster groups too that we focus on too, where we're getting most of the calls from, where they need people and they need trained people.
Yeah, and we just went through that energy boom there, which probably will come back around here soon.
I think that'll come around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a boom and bust industry.
Yeah,
and that's important because I think what happened last time is people were sort of more or less kind of scrambling to get workers up here and everything like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, that's the nice thing that the ATC, the Advanced Technology Center, has done down at the old Sony plant is, they have a great resource down there for, not like, that's the nice thing. It's not just for, Westmoreland County residents or what have you. It's for everybody to come up and use it. It's a community college. It's for us. So they have a great setup. They have a lot of partnerships there that have brought in, industry standard technology. What they're using out on sites. So it's really important. It really is, and I think it's something that everybody needs to start thinking about sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we'll get into the reason why, the demographics a little later, but with the workforce kind of going down and you have to think about it. It's something that needs to be cognizant of.
In your forum you had, Alec, what were some of the business people's concerns, or what are they looking for with education, working with education?
That's kind of a loaded question. I mean, they're looking for a lot of different things. I mean, like right now, I think strong basic education is always good right now, and then to go on top of that, to sort of just build upon it and be quick learners. And it's not necessarily, it's kind of funny. You go through the educational process, but then a lot of what you learn is on the job, right?
Yes,
it's they're teaching you what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that everybody has a good basic education, but it's also making those students aware of the opportunities out there.
No, absolutely, and I think the businesses getting involved with the education is great. A lot of students may not be aware of what is out there, and I know a lot of these businesses, they welcome tours, they welcome internships, and then that's a great way for students, high school students, to find out what's out there and what they have to do to get into that.
And the businesses welcome it. They want to be at the table. They want to be a part of this. So that's what's great about this forum is it's all about the bridge building. It's all about bringing businesses and education sort of together.
Yeah.
And it's education reaching out to businesses saying, what are the needs? And then it's businesses going back to education saying, here they are, how can we help?
Yeah.
Whether that be through, in the case of the ATC, donation of some equipment, they take tours through there all the time. And it's, let's be honest, businesses look for educational institutions to set up shop around. It's no secret. It's why a lot of people love the Pittsburgh region, with great universities like CMU and Pitt, Penn State New Kensington, Penn State Fayette. There's just so much opportunity here. And, they want to be around where these kids are coming out so they can kind of, grab them and train them.
Absolutely. So. Now, I know a little bit during the show, I'm sure our producer will be putting up charts and stuff as we talk, and a lot of it's pretty neat, but do you want to cover some of the demographics?
Yeah, I just want to go over some basic stuff here. This was put together by an organization called Recognizing Our Westmoreland. Obviously, it's Westmoreland County specific, but it took a look at the workforce over the whole region, really. And on the left here, we have the population pyramid, and we do have the URL there, recognizingourwestmoreland.wordpress.com, where any listener can go and learn more about the program. Brian Lawrence, he's the Assistant Deputy Director for Planning for the County of Westmoreland, had a big hand in putting a lot of this data together, so I have to make sure I thank him for doing all his good hard work on this. A lot of people from Penn State New Kensington came together and helped put this together. But you can see the biggest line in that population pyramid is the 50 to 54 range.
Yeah, yeah.
So and then obviously the ones above it and below it are also one of the highest ones as well. So, that's fine, but they're going to be retiring in 10 to 15 years. So, and when you look at what's coming up here, you look at the 20 to 39-year-old range. You're looking at a 2.5% gap there. So it's going to be a problem, and this is why we're kind of on top of this now, is to say when all those very experienced, folks leave the workforce, there's going to be a vacuum.
Yes.
So it's important to recognize that early and to show businesses that we are addressing the issue, because that's important.
Yeah, that's interesting. That really is.
And then on the right here, we have workforce projections out to 2020. And you can see right there, 65 years and older, it's going to be up there well over 20%. So right now we're doing okay, and it's actually a good thing to have the experienced workers that we have right now. But I'm sure everybody listening could understand the concern if you were a manufacturer in the region trying to plan for the future, and you take a look at some of these numbers and say, wow. What's around the bend, so.
Yeah, this will be interesting. So when you get we put these graphs up on a screen, take a look at it, viewers. It's really something interesting.
Yeah, and definitely this is just really the tip of the iceberg. If you go on to the URL here, recognizingourwestmoreland.wordpress.com, there's a very nice narrative that was put together there that really goes behind the numbers and gives a better understanding of where we are and where we're going to end up. I do have some other stats here to show you here. And it's this graph on the right here, retired age cohort, age 65 and older, will increase 56% from 2000. So that's pretty significant. The other significant on here is our workforce population, that's ages 20 to 64 years old, will go down 4%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's about 9,000 people. So if you think about all the people that goes into advanced manufacturing, that can be significant. And then the other interesting number here that a lot of school district administrators are taking a look at as well is the number of school-age children up to 20 years old is going to decline by about 15% or 13,000 people. So that's also significant about the people coming through high school right now, K through 12. So there's that, and that's just a projection. That's just an estimate. We don't know if that's going to be the actual number, but that's why we're saying things like this now to say,
We got to, yeah.
we got to address it and
Yeah.
sort of figure out a way to maybe make this area a little bit more livable. There's a whole host of issues that could go into it.
Yeah,
That's why it's so broad.
Yeah.
It can go from anything from transportation to community colleges to really anything. So
Yeah, now what your organizations are doing, other organizations bring it together regionally. I mean, if you look at all the counties around here, my God, it's just great country, great. I mean, all kind of activities, sporting activities, tourism, manufacturing. It's just a wide range of things in these counties around here, and it's a great place to live.
it is a great place to live, and I think the other thing to touch on is the pride that we have in our communities. And that's just so important. And because if you don't have pride in your community, then people aren't going to want to live there. So. I think, I've heard a few people refer to, maybe more of the Westmoreland County areas like a boomerang effect, where younger kids, I can fall into this. I'm an example. I went away for college and then I came back. Maybe that's to raise a family, maybe that's for an opportunity, or what have you. But that's what we're starting to see, and a lot of the younger folks, a lot of friends, obviously this isn't anything scientific, but they end up somewhere in the Pittsburgh area, taking a job doing this or that, and that's great. I found myself to Erie, which was a bigger city than Greensburg was, anyways. So spent some time up there, but then a lot of people find their way back. So it's important to recognize, and especially for businesses coming into the areas. A lot of people don't really want to leave, but they feel that maybe they have to because the opportunity isn't quite here. Well, that's just not true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alec, I appreciate you coming back, and you better get some of those students, those kids trained, because Harry and I, we got a couple more years ago. He had several years before we retired.
I don't think about that.
It's going to take a lot of training to get somebody to take our spots.
It will. I don't know. I think you got another 30 or 40 years in. So I think it'll be fine.
All right, Alec, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and we'll be right back. Next up is Judy Siebert talking about Healthy Pick.
Hello and welcome to Healthy Pick. Today we're going to talk about calcium, a very needed nutrient, especially during the growing phase, which is infancy, probably around 4, 5, 6 years old, and then the next growth spurt, the teenage years. So everyone knows that calcium is found in dairy products, the milks, the cheeses, the yogurts, and it's a very good available source of calcium. But what if you can't tolerate dairy products? What if you have an allergy to it? Or what if you're vegan and you don't do any animal products? How do you get your calcium then? Well, you can do it, but you have to be more mindful of the foods we eat. Now, I have a couple good ideas. First, we can use milk that's not from a cow, it's from a plant. There's almond milk, hemp milk, coconut milk, soy milk. They're all good sources because the calcium is added in. It's fortified with calcium. Another product that's fortified, that means they put the calcium in, is orange juice. You can get a fortified orange juice that has as much calcium, ounce for ounce, as milk. So if you're not drinking dairy and you're not doing the plant milks, I would probably suggest to have a glass or two of orange juice that's fortified with calcium. Another source of calcium are the green leafy vegetables. They are almost as good. Well, it's a pretty good source. However, there's green leafy vegetables like spinach. And spinach, although it has calcium, it has a lot of calcium, it's not what we say bioavailable. We have a hard time getting the calcium out of the spinach into our bones where we need it. So even though spinach is loaded with it, it's not the best source. Kale, turnip greens, collard greens, they're much better source of calcium. Now, calcium is needed for our bone growth. And then there's kind of here's a way to remember it, the 3 M's. You want to maximize your bone growth during the growing years. So you want to think of it as a bank, and you want to put in as much calcium as you can. Then, and that's usually about to age 25, maybe 30 for guys. So you're depositing calcium and you're maximizing calcium in your bones. Then you want to maintain. You want to do everything to maintain your calcium in your bones till about age 50 for women, age 70 for men. And then you want to minimize calcium loss because calcium will actually start leaching out of your bones. So the 3 M's are maximize, maintain, and minimize the loss. And how you do that again is with calcium fortified foods and vitamin D. Vitamin D is, we actually get that from the sun. You need about 20 minutes of sunshine a day on your hands and face without sunscreen. So unless you've had melanoma, that is the recommendations for everyone. Little bit hard to do over the winter in our climate. We have a lot of cloudy days. So you want to get vitamin D, and there's very limited foods, but again, the calcium, and then you need weight-bearing exercise. You can't sit all day and then expect your bones to be strong as they can be. So you need weight-bearing exercise to go along with it. So maybe plant a garden and grow some kale so you're out working. So again, just in closing, we all need calcium throughout our lifespan to help prevent some problems with the bones like osteoporosis, to help prevent breaks, and we need it every day. We need that, the vitamin D, and weight-bearing exercise. So if you're not drinking milk or you're not eating cheese or yogurt, you have to make a real effort to get that about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams a day, and that takes effort. But if you do that, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to have a healthy skeleton your entire lifespan. Well, thank you very much for joining us. My name's Judy Siebert, and I'm the consultant dietitian with Head Start. And I want to thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you next time on Healthy Pick.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show, talking with Alec Italiano about workforce development and also talking with Judy Siebert about some nutritional tips. So I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next month on The Pick Connection.